today we will maybe understand for the first time in a long time how to fulfill our own emotional needs. So first off, we need to understand what our emotional triggers are. And if you've read the book, The Five Love Languages, you might already know whether you have uh, words of affirmation, acts of service, gift giving, quality time, or physical touch, of course. So when you have these ideas in mind of what your emotional state is when it's at its optimal, you can also recognize the patterns that make you feel unloved or unfulfilled. And even though we do apply these love languages to other people, we could also apply that in our own lives for self-care. Now, how do you tailor your love language in terms of self-care? So you could see if your own words of affirmation help you to feel better. You could see, for example, if physical touch is something that you are drawn towards, or whether it's something you really don't want. I'm not talking about unwelcome attention. I'm talking about that physical touch that makes you feel emotionally well. And with all the other ones, being of service, finding quality time, and receiving gifts, how many of those feel like that could be something you could pour back into yourself? Now, accepting this will help you to embrace your needs on a level that requires your own input into the way you want to live. Now, if our mindset is the world is against us, we could shift that towards, but I am for me. So this is not a selfish, egotistical act. This is the act of knowing what you need and how to give it to yourself. We are too focused on how to get things from other people instead of making sure that we do fulfill our own needs. And that is completely possible, especially if you start communicating with your brain. And the thing is that all the negative things that you don't have are in here. They are stuck in your mind. They are in the thought patterns. They are in the limiting beliefs you have about yourself. And when you can start unraveling that and picking at the things you don't have versus how you could give that to yourself, you will see how your life feels and start to feel so much more rewarding. Now, we could hang around and wait for other people to fulfill all our needs, but you'll always have to be honest with yourself and see that you are the only one responsible for what is happening to you, how it is happening to you, and also the outcomes. You are totally in control of the way you think, the way you speak, the way you act, the way you feel. And all of those things come together in this natural flow state where you get to give back to yourself. Now, how do you communicate those needs? So you could do mirror work, of course, but you could also start to monitor what's going on in your mind. What thoughts do you regularly have? And a journaling practice will help you to unravel that. And if you've got something to say, if you've got something that you need to bring out of yourself, you could write about it. But it doesn't have to be a beautiful scripted piece of work. It needs to be something that just bubbles out of you and that you just slap on a piece of paper just to get it out of your system. Later, you could come back and write another page, maybe about how you are going to act and become the thing you want instead. So we could also communicate our needs to others by saying, listen, this and this and this is what I've noticed is my love language. This is what I like to be receiving, or the way I like to give. And maybe you could do this, and this, and then I will do this, and that for you. So that helps to understand either the people around you in your life or your co-workers, and also yourself. You always have to reflect on yourself. You have to nurture these aspects on many levels. I'm not talking about levels outside of you. I'm talking about your routines, your habits, the way you do things, the way you communicate to yourself, and the way you see yourself from an observer point of view. If you could step back from your current situation and look yourself in the eye, you could see that certain things are missing in your life, but also that other things need to be brought into your life. So let's do a little bit of reflection. Let's take a look at those things that you might need. So while I open up my next screen, why don't you grab a pen and paper and let's work through these 5 love languages quickly so that you can see where you need something, where you might want to give something, where you might want to change something. And then also start to understand yourself a little bit better. All right. So on your piece of paper, right there, do I like to hear words of affirmation? Here you might feel or see that you appreciate it when somebody else gives you compliments. And you can also monitor on the second level how you speak to yourself in your head. And remember, we always listen to ourselves most. So if the person inside your head is talking smack about you, then you might just start believing that. But if those affirmations were positive affirmations towards the things you are and the things you want to be, then of course your whole attitude around who you are and the way you feel fulfilled will change. I'll give you a couple of minutes to write that out and think about that prompt for a while. Words of affirmation is an expression of love in encouraging and supportive words. The reflection point is, what are your words and how do they help you? All right. Next, acts of service. Now, these are ways for you to show affection towards other people or to show love and care. But if you are the type of person who loves to give, you also have to know that there are those who love to receive. And sometimes we can't just give all of ourselves away. We at some point, hey, Bootsy, come lie down, come lie down. So at some point, you also have to stand there and receive. That balance needs to be there as we both give and receive. Oh. And make sure the harmony is in play there, because sometimes the takers take more than their fair share and the givers overgive to compensate for maybe guilt or the fact that they might feel that they're not giving enough because they're not getting enough back. So here's the reflection point, and write this down. Acts of service. How can I be and feel loved when I do or give acts of service to others? What do I expect in return? I'll give you a minute to write about that. Our next topic is receiving gifts. So I know I talked a little bit about that in the acts of service, but receiving gifts and giving gifts is a way for you to express a thoughtful manner to receive the feeling of love. In contrast to the acts of service where we give to others, where we do things for others, where we physically attempt to create a space where the other person feels that you have taken some of their burdens and made those burdens less. You could, if you could reflect on this, have a look at what tasks you would like to delegate and what tasks you'd like to give to somebody else. And what would that mean to you? I'll give you a minute or so to reflect on that. Next, we will take a look at quality time. So often we try and pour everything we have into a relationship or into what we're doing every day. And that feels like the cup is overflowing with all the wrong things. But think about this. If you could spend 20 minutes doing something with somebody, if your love language or priority love language is that of quality time, wouldn't that 20 minutes make up for a whole bucket full of things you don't want? And if you're dealing with people, they need to know that you need this 20-minute quality time with them, or this hour of activity, or it could be something as simple as building a puzzle together, cooking dinner together, or working on the budget together. If that quality time is spent in a way that the other person can reciprocate, then you will also feel more successful and more loved. If your love language revolves around quality time, write this down. How could I spend the next 20 minutes doing something worth my time? I'll give you a minute to think and think and write about that. The fifth language of love, where you could figure out how to find that for yourself, is physical touch. And we sometimes complain that this one isn't giving me a hug and that one isn't letting me touch them, or, all these outer expressions of not feeling loved if your love language is physical touch. But how can you fulfill that need for yourself if you are in need of physical touch? Well, you could take up a self-care routine where you would treat yourself from head to toe and pamper your body. Put lotion on, scrub your feet, do a meditation practice where you do, well, let's reverse that. Not a meditation practice, but a mindful movement practice. That could be walking, that could be doing a little bit of yoga, doing mild exercise, anything where your body, your physical body, can receive touch points would be beneficial for somebody who is in need of physical touch. Now, if you need a hug, there's nothing wrong with wrapping your arms around yourself and giving yourself a comforting hug. It's like when you're cold, when you do this and you rub yourself, you start to warm up your body. Now, that is one way of giving yourself physical touch. And through the healing presence of hand gestures, you also get to touch yourself in ways where your neurology can accept that as a form of self-care. That way, you can give yourself physical touch without having to rely on the external world. So, for the next minute, take a pen and paper and write down how you could pamper or treat yourself in terms of physical touch where you could feel fulfilled. I'll give you a minute to do that. Okay, welcome back. So that awareness of what you need to embrace to fulfill your own needs and to find love for yourself will come about when you start doing these deeper connection moments with yourself. It only takes a couple of minutes. Like, for instance, today is the perfect example of how quickly you could walk yourself through things that will help you in the end. Now, when you understand your own emotional needs, your mindset shifts from I don't have this to I feel fulfilled. And when you start feeling more and more fulfilled, you will stop feeling like you need something or that there's something missing in your life. And when you feel more fulfilled, you will, of course, help yourself move forward that much faster. And also in line with what you want from life. Hi, baby. You're such a beautiful girl. Yes, such a beautiful girl. No kisses. There we go. Okay, go play. Go play. Go play. Here we go. See, even a dog knows what they need. And when they want that affection, they surely do come around to get it. Okay, that's it from me for today. I'll see you in next week's 15-minute mindset magic.